Good evening, candidates. These are the questions that were asked to a candidate who has attended interview on 23rd of March with Federal Bank PO campus recruitment. Federal Bank campus recruitment. Yeah, I'm selecting it. And if this can be changed, there is nothing like that. Yeah. The questions they asked are, what is debt is to equity ratio? First question they asked was, debt is to equity ratio. Supposing we look into this, say debt is to equity ratio. How do we go about that? Debt is to debt equity ratio. These are the questions asked to a candidate who has been doing MBA after engineering and MBA in finance. So this question has been asked to him, debt to equity ratio. The debt is to equity ratio compares a company's total liability to its shareholders' equity and can be used to evaluate how much leverage a company is using. Higher leverage ratios tend to indicate a company or stock with a higher risk to shareholders. So if the debt is very much more than equity, that is not favorable for the investors. Then next question is the IRR, internal rate of return. Internal rate of return. Internal rate of return. So what is this internal rate of return? I have collected this one, say I have collected it and kept it here. So I think we'll be able to see it. Internal rate of return. The internal rate of return is a core component of capital budgeting and corporate finance. Businesses use it to determine which discount rate makes the present value of future after tax cash flows equal to the initial capital of capital investment. Or put it more simply, what discount rate would cause the net present value of a project to be $0, in other words, rupees 0. If an investment will require capital that could be used elsewhere, the internal rate of return is the lowest level of return from the project that is acceptable in order to justify the investment. So this is what is given. You can see this in Investopedia. Next question is Fed rate. What is Fed rate? For that also, I have collected these, say another page. Fed rate. Fed rate means Federal Reserve Bank of New York. This is a rate similar to bank rate we have in India, which is presently 4.25%. In say America, the Federal Reserve rate is recently they have revised it by 0.25. So now the rate is 0.25 to 0.50. 0.25 to 0.50. And here again, yeah, now this is the rate. Target range is 0.25 to 0.50. They call it by different this thing. For example, March of 23, they say it is 0.33. Then first percentile point 0.31. Likewise, something they are telling, I'm not able to explain what it is fully, but it is sufficient you know. Federal Reserve rate is the rate similar to bank rate in our country. And the present rate is 0.25 to 0.50. Next question that was asked to this candidate, percentage of agriculture sector to GDP contribution. Please find out what it is. Similarly, what is the fiscal deficit? What is fiscal deficit? See the excess of expenditure over the revenue as planned by the, say the government in budget and what is really happening. Then the candidate was asked why banking? After MBA, after all, this candidate can say banking offers an excellent scope for career growth and say it's a challenging opportunities. Next question that was asked to this candidate, will you be able to relocate? The answer is yes. There can be no for this, whether it is a boy or a girl. When they ask this question, you must willingly accept and say yes. You don't have to justify why it is yes and all that. About my 10th to 12th marks, they asked, why MBA after doing from science background? Was it easy for me? Obviously, you have to say it is for improving your career prospects and you were comfortable with the MBA. Federal Bank balance sheet data. So you must have gone through the Federal Bank balance sheet data. Then only you can answer this. Then digital currency by RBI. There was a reference about it in digital currency in the budget. So about that, please go through and then tell. How to sell a product. How to sell a product. They told me to sell a cardboard which was behind him. So how to sell it? They want to know whether you are having expressive nature. Are you able to explain properly? Are you able to communicate properly? This is nothing difficult for MBA students. And the last question was bank rate. Bank rate is the rate at which Reserve Bank of India lends money to scheduled commercial banks. And the present rate is 4.25. So I thank this candidate for having sent these questions very nicely. And this may be of use for people who are appearing for, say, campus interview and who have also done MBA. These are the questions asked for MBA, probably finance and marketing candidate. Thank you so much. Best wishes.